Soldiers of Shoot.
Welcome, troops, to another episode of Soldiers of Shoot. I am General Stames with Hollywood Edwards and AC. Guys, we're going to talk a little bit here about the new Viking Experience. There's a lot out there all over the interwebbings about this new team. And for those of you who don't know, if you missed Monday Night Raw, they brought up a team from the NXT known as the War Raiders, who were in ROH, formerly known as the War Machine. Now, that name has been changed as they moved up to supposedly Monday Night Raw. Rumor being that Vince McMahon doesn't like the word war. It seems to depict violence. But they also changed Hanson and Rowe's individual ring names to Ivar and Eric, respectfully. So let's talk about this, guys. The Viking Experience. Hollywood, what are you looking for here? It seems like a great idea, huh?
Well, here's the thing. Do I think it's stupid? Yes. Of course I do. But later on this right here, this show right here, I'm going to bring up a devil's advocate question for you guys. But I will say this. It goes back to what you, General Stames, and I have been saying about NXT. It doesn't matter in the long run. It doesn't matter. I can't believe, I was shocked. Even as a guy that's been saying that, I was shocked to see these guys come up and see the Viking Experience on screen. And then to hear them call them names that were obviously plays on famous historical Vikings, I'm very confused as to what the purpose of NXT is other than a sandbox for Triple H to jerk off into. There's no rhyme or reason for NXT anymore. They just proved it. Now, the question has to become, NXT fans, I feel your pain in this. I do. But how can you continue watching this? Because it's not going to stop here. When the Velveteen Dream comes up, is his name going to be called the Prince Experience? When the Adam Cole faction, what are they called, AC? The
Undisputed Era.
Undisputed Era. When they come up, are they going to call it the ROH Experience? You just don't know what you're going to get when these guys hit the main roster, and they just prove to me, without a shadow of a doubt, whatever you see on NXT, throw it out the window because it doesn't matter to Vince McMahon.
Well, I'm not sure that that's fair. AC, obviously, Hollywood has not been watching the NXT shows where these two guys are doing their whole Viking gimmick every week. Explain to him why they are the Viking Experience.
Okay, I got nothing. But I got nothing on explaining that. But I have a lot to say on this subject. But let's stick with what you're talking about because we're headed on the NXT rabbit hole here. And I will say this. I'm with you now, and here's the reason. I know that they brought guys up left and right and had them fail. They've taken good gimmicks and just whatever you want to call it, put them on 205 Live. You know, they're doing basically what they're doing with EC3 now. It was a very small percentage of guys who made it. But until this point, when they came, like American Alpha was still American Alpha when they came up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Finn Balor was still Finn Balor. Kevin Owens was Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn was Sami Zayn. The Shield was the Shield. Bray Wyatt was Bray Wyatt. The Wyatt family was the Wyatt family. They were still the same. This is the first time they've done this. And that's, I'm done. I don't want to see it anymore. And this is the reason. I sit there in fucking indie shows in 95-degree weather in the Bethany Town Hall to watch Hanson wrestle 4 years ago. And you know what? Is Hanson my favorite wrestler? Did I love his gimmick? We used to rag on him, call his little war skirt. We used to call it a war skirt. I don't know what the fuck it is. Did he look somewhat like a Viking sometimes in NEW? Yeah, great, he did. Then he went to ROH, become War Machine. The three of us sat in a building December 19th, 2015, on my fucking birthday in Philly, watching them win the ROH tag titles. That was kind of like their coming out party as War Machine. They go to NXT. It's still Hanson and Rowe. War Raiders, War Machine, little change of the name. I could live with it. They're putting them over, winning matches, open takeovers, this and that. Okay, we're onto something here. And I get it the whole time. In the back of my mind, too, is when they get to the main roster, they're going to fuck them up. But to take it to this level, they're still on NXT. I read that they're going to appear on NXT this week as the War Raiders when they come out Monday night as Ivar and Eric. The Viking Experience. I don't want to see it happen to any one of these guys anymore. I just don't want. I don't want to see this happen again. It pissed me off to no end. It pissed me off more than Mustafa calling himself Ali.
Wow.
It really did. It pissed me off that I was freaking out. I texted you guys. I'm never watching NXT. Fuck this bullshit. I'm done. And I'm not watching it tomorrow. I'm not watching. I'm done. You want to get me back? Prove to me you deserve me back. And after Money in the Bank, if I think WWE sucks, I'm not going to watch any of this shit. Because we got Double or Nothing, we got AEW coming, we got so much things going on. ROH will probably have a big summer. NEW has a big run. I don't need the WWE this summer.
Well said.
Wow. Hollywood, how does that work if they're on Raw as the Viking Experience, Ivar and Eric, and then they go to NXT and they're wrestling as the War Raiders? Isn't that going to confuse the fans of the third brand?
Well, here's the thing, man. This isn't WCW or the NWA where they're grabbing somebody and changing their name. They own this. It's on their network. I cannot for the life of me understand why Vince McMahon wouldn't pay attention to NXT, and if he saw the word war and didn't like it, or if he saw the word Raider and didn't like it, or if he knew these guys were really into Viking culture, why wouldn't he say, Triple H, this is what you need to do, put Viking in their name? Because it would kill all of the stuff that I bitch about NXT, but they refuse to do it. That's what developmental is. If it's a third brand, you can't just pull him over and change his name. Look, AJ Styles just went from SmackDown to Raw. Did they change his name? No, obviously they didn't. So why are you doing it in NXT? It doesn't make sense to me. The only thing that I can figure is Vince doesn't care. So, to answer your question, Stames, what they're going to do tomorrow is nothing. Nothing. Because Vince doesn't care. So if Triple H rolls them out as the War Raiders, or if he runs the new Titantron package, where they're the Viking Experience, Vince doesn't give a shit less. That's the answer.
Before I get to your point about Vince not liking the name War, if that's the case, because I'm going to kill him for that. I'm going to kill. This is what I'm going to ask. This is the question I'm going to ask about this. If Vince doesn't care what they are in NXT, that's their network.
Yes.
They know how many people are watching. We don't.
No.
They know.
Yes.
So are they now telling us nobody's watching NXT?
It's possible. Or so many little people, the amount of people are so small.
You get what I'm saying?
It's the same thing. Yeah, to them, yes.
Yeah,
nobody's
take it to another step. If they're seeing the numbers and it's, I don't know, let's say it's like 100,000 people, maybe less. Who knows? I mean, is it possible that Vince is saying, "Who cares? That's like 5% of our audience. Nobody else knows about them."
I would say the majority of my friends who watch takeovers don't watch NXT week to week.
That's interesting.
And I hang with we go to indie shows. They watch New Japan ROH. None of us. I miss NXT shows, and I until this week consider myself an NXT fan. But I would miss NXT shows, and I never went back to watch it because why? It's like watching. I don't go back to watch a week-to-week ROH show if I miss it, because there's no reason to. I don't need to see it to understand what's going on. It's a throwaway show most of the time. Maybe you get a little storyline development and small potatoes, but if you watch the next show, they're going to give you the highlights of it anyway, and you'll get the gist of it. So you don't need to watch it every week. So my guess is if they're doing this, the viewership isn't that great. And we talked about it when Ricochet and Black came up. Nobody reacted to them. That's another sign that nobody's watching NXT. And we heard all this stuff that it was going to Fox. That wasn't true. Nobody's buying that programming. Is Vince just shitting on these guys saying, hey, you're not doing anything for me down there? Every now and then I'll come across a guy like Lars, who's a monster. I like monsters. I'll push him. Lars was just another guy in NXT.
Well, actually, Buddy Murphy came on SmackDown and said pretty much, I know you don't know who I am, but you will know. I mean, he just wrestled on WrestleMania. I mean, it was the pre-show, mind you. Mm-hmm. But last year he was on WrestleMania, wasn't he?
Is that telling you nobody's watching 205 Live either then, right?
I think it is. Yeah. I would imagine that there's less people watching 205 Live than are watching NXT.
I actually like that guy, by the way. I think he could do something.
Does anybody remember Cedric Alexander from, when he had a couple of hot matches on the Cruiserweight tournament and when they first did 205 Live on Raw, when he had a little, Cedric Alexander was actually making a name for himself when they had him on Raw before, and then they put him on 205 Live. I forgot about him. And I saw him wrestle in fucking Crosby High School. You know what I mean? And I forgot about him when they put him on 205 Live. I think they shouldn't even have done 205 Live. They should have kept those guys on Raw. You have 3 hours. Give the guys 20 minutes on Raw every week. And everybody knew Cedric. Everybody knew Buddy Murphy then. Everybody, any of those guys, would Mike Kanellis have a place right now if they did that 205 Live stuff on Raw? Or like you guys brought up too, the manager, what's his name? The kid from TNA.
Drake Maverick.
Drake Maverick. Like most people don't even know who he is.
Right.
If you put him on Raw in a 30 minutes, cruiserweight segment, you'd have something.
Yeah, I wonder why they got away from that, because it's not like they could say, well, we don't think that's good programming. I mean, some of the shit they put on there is horrendous programming. Tonight on SmackDown, from the time that Becky came out till the time that schmoz tag team match was over, that was horrendous, brutally horrendous programming. Am I wrong about that, Hollywood?
No. But let's try and stay on topic here. NXT, bro, guys. Dude, okay.
War Raiders.
War Raiders. It's Triple H's playtime. That's all it is. You can't look at that as anything but anymore. You really can't. And if you disagree with me, down in the comments, because I would like an explanation as to why AC should still keep watching NXT. And Stames and I should tune into NXT, because now we're talking nonsense. We're talking about two guys with two new names and a new tag team name. So what is the point? They didn't develop that character down there, right? So throw my developmental crap out the window. And it's not a third brand because they're changing the name as they move to the brand. So what is it?
So when you hear former wrestlers, as I read a bunch of comments on Twitter and whatnot today, some people saying, well, look at The Undertaker. That was a horrible name. It was a terrible gimmick. And look what he was able to do with that. The Viking Experience ought to be able to do the same thing. If they're good enough, they'll get over with that name. Mm-hmm. What do you say to those people?
I disagree with that wholeheartedly. First of all, I don't think in 91?
30 years ago.
30 years ago, The Undertaker. It just went with everything else that was going on at the time, okay? The second thing is...
I saw, what's his name saying that, too? The Canadian dude there.
Lance or
Lance Storm,
Lance Storm,
dude.
yeah.
Yeah, dude, what year are you in, bro? Oh, Jericho said, "Raw, 27 years ago." Okay, yeah, that's relevant in 2019, bro.
Yeah,
Anyway.
exactly. But you know, Taker did have the machine behind him pretty quickly too. I mean, was it a bad gimmick? Yeah, on paper, dead zombie giant dead guy. But yeah, he got it over. But it fit to what was going on back in the day.
I think it scared kids back in the day too, which is part of the reason why it worked. You know, I don't know if the kids would be scared by that today because they're exposed to more.
Right?
Know?
Yeah, true.
It's just, dude, going back to something that was 30 years ago. That would be like, why isn't Reigns over like Hogan was?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. If you reverse it, let's be fair now. If you reverse the guys, if Roman Reigns was Roman Reigns in 1985 slamming Andre the Giant, he'd be Hogan. And Hogan would be Reigns right now getting booed out of buildings.
Oh, yeah, as soon as he debuted, they'd be booing
him. You're arguing apples and oranges. That shit doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It matters what they're doing right now. And like you guys said, if you think I should still watch NXT or you guys should tune in, put it in the comments because I'd love to hear why. I'm done, bro. Like I honestly think Vince McMahon is done with it. He's burying these guys even worse than he used to with the name changes. What they've done with EC3, it's almost like, yeah, sign that Carter guy, pal, so I can have Braun Strowman slam him through tables when he actually had a spot where he might get a little attention. Just totally done away with it. You put him on a new show for what? You're doing the same thing you did with him on the other show. Absolutely. Or was he even on a show? Yep. Did he declare a show? I don't even know if he declared a show.
No, he never did. Never did.
Right. So what is our point with any of this? There really is no point. Maybe Vince has decided that I don't want Hunter to blow my money on this money pit. This is like the house when you like look at it from the street. It looks like the $1 million mansion. It's got all the lights. And then you get inside and the furnace doesn't work. The roof is leaking. The dishwasher doesn't clean the dishes. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like the pretty little golden child that, sells out the Barclays for big pay-per-views, but, can still do NXT shows in 2,000 seat arenas, which you don't see when they're in the boiler room. They want to present to you the big lights and it's not another brand, but it could be the third brand, blah, blah, blah. But the reality of the situation is it's costing them money because they wanted to sign all these guys. And the reason it's costing them money is because they signed Adam Cole. They signed EC3. They signed, Shinsuke Nakamura and Fergal Devitt. They had to get these guys up to the roster because they can't afford to keep paying them on NXT because NXT doesn't make any money. Let's be honest. Let's fuck over ROH. We'll pay this guy, and we'll rush him to the main roster where it makes a little more sense, even if we don't know what we're doing with them. It was all their plan to create their monopoly. And, it might be Triple H's playground, but it's a failing playground. When you really delve into what's going on, it's a total failure.
Those guys aren't making tons of money down there, correct?
They're not, but in comparison of what they... All right, I'll put it to you this way. In comparison of what they would make saying on an indie show, yeah, of course. They have a guaranteed contract. They're making money. It's not a lot, but they're also running the same arenas that these like ROH and indie shows are running for 2,000 people for the most part, other than when they do their takeovers.
Well, they just did a show, AC. And Stames, you sent me this text that they only sold, 500 was the...
350 was the paid
350.
attendance. So
I looked up, it's a place in, where was it, Tampa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in Florida.
It's in Florida. I never heard of it before, so I pulled it up. It's literally a banquet hall. Right. If you go to their website, this is a place you rent out for your wedding.
Yeah, they're
350 people. Now
they're running when indie shows ran.
Now if they were making money, they wouldn't be booking a banquet hall where you have your wedding. That's the point. Like that's to your point. Like people think it's this amazing thing that Triple H came up with. The fact is it's not.
It's the biggest lie in the history of WWE, is what it is.
And Stames, I wanted to ask you, Stames, specifically, with this name change, do you think that any of this is a pissing contest that we're witnessing between Vince and Triple H?
I think it could be. I think if Vince is at his wit's end with all of this, I think that, and it would be a shame if that's the case, because the guys who are being punished by this are War Machine.
Right.
Because they're the ones that the question becomes, now what? What's going to happen here?
Well, what do you mean? If they're good enough, they could get it over anyway, right?
Right. So one of two things are going to happen here. Either A, Vince is going to have to back down on the name Viking Experience, and they're going to have to change the name again, or B, the Viking Experience is going to be just like a half a dozen other tag teams that have come up from NXT. They get to the WWE and they are dismantled in no time. What was that team? I'll never forget that day where I called you when I saw that team on Raw, and I said, "Oh, what are they? They're like the new Legion of Doom." And you're like, "What the hell are you talking?" Ascension. And Hollywood's saying, "What the hell are you talking about? They're nothing like the Legion of Doom." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Look at them." And apparently they didn't do that gimmick in NXT.
It was the shoulder pads. You told me, go look at them. What are you talking about? And they were wearing shoulder pads.
The paint, the shoulder pads, all of it. Yeah. And then what happened to them? They flushed them down the toilet.
Right.
Well, they were done in no time. And now here's the thing I have to say about Hanson and Rowe, though, is they're two big guys. And Vince usually likes that. He likes the bigger guys. Will that save them? Will he, will he try to work with them more? If the name doesn't get over, if they keep getting killed, will he do them a solid and change the name? And I don't know if War Raiders is going to work for him because it's, too violent, too combative.
I have an answer for that. Harper, Rowan. What did he do with them?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a repeat.
Yeah. Good
Igor
point.
and Eric, Harper, Rowan. We're walking down. This is like history repeating itself. Another question.
Actually, one of those guys could get hurt, and Rowan could go in there and fill in, and nobody would know the difference.
I mean, yeah, seriously, put a wig on him. No, he could cut his beard. He could be Rowe. He could be Rowe. Well, what is Rowe Eric or is he Igor? I don't even know.
Well, he could be Rowan. He is Rowan, so he could be Rowe.
So he could be Rowe.
Right.
Rowe could be Rowan and Igor could be Harper. Eric, Rowan, and Igor Harper.
Listen, pal, I know I already took the name Eric off you, but now I'm taking the N off the end of your name, too.
You're Rowe.
You are now Rowe.
Well, let's another couple questions for you. Why would it be a pissing match, though? Let's be honest. Why does Vince McMahon need to have a pitching match with Triple H?
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't need to.
That's his daughter. It's his daughter's husband, though. So,
I'm your daddy. I'm your daddy.
Right.
I mean, and now you know what he's doing right now? He's saying, "I'm your daddy." It's not a pissing match. He's bitch slapping that motherfucker right now.
It's very interesting because there was just an article that I was reading, and I don't know if I sent you that one, Hollywood, where Triple H was just throwing all the compliments on Vince McMahon because how he changes with the times and he's able to roll with the punches and all the, the vision that he has. It was just full of all that stuff, that article. And the next day, the Viking Experience shows up. So is that Vince and his vision and being able to change and roll with the times, the Viking Experience? Is that what you were talking about, Triple H?
Well, let me throw this out at you guys. I said I was going to play devil's advocate right here, so I'll do it now. Is there any possibility that they didn't want to call them the Vikings because it's not 1985 anymore? Or if you look at Rowe and you look at Sarah Logan, apparently they had a Viking wedding. Okay,
they did.
You look at Sarah Logan; she dresses like a Viking princess or whatever you want to say. Is it possible that Vince decided we're gonna lift the curtain here a little bit. We're gonna call it the Viking Experience. We're not gonna insult the fans by saying they're Vikings. So tune in to the network special where these two guys show you how to make Viking clothing, and they go to their Viking hangout at the big Viking festival every year, and this is the Viking Experience.
What does USA own History Channel, or are they the same parent company? Maybe
that's a hell of a question. There might be
maybe they're gonna cross promote. Maybe they're gonna cross promote. Who needs MMA when you have Vikings on History?
But I'm seeing
they're going to bring back Wade Barrett, and they can fight off the English.
Yeah, maybe. I'm looking at it from a perspective of the reality that they've been doing. You know, they're doing this little reality bullshit here and there and everywhere. Yet they're still sticking some things are kayfabed. You know, like certain people getting married. You can't say that, but you can say Dave Bautista. You know, shit like that. Is this another example of them being confused or them slowly introducing, you know, the new way of doing things? Okay, these guys aren't Vikings, but they're really into Viking culture. So we'll call it Viking Experience.
So then if that's the case, we should expect other experiences to follow.
That is what yes, I could see it happening.
So the gimmick is the story, like I said last week, the story was them telling you this guy and this guy could switch and da-da-da-da-da, which seemed to be the story there. Actually, I thought they're booking out of, not that it was good coming out of WrestleMania, but the idea that they actually told the story that, oh, they're fighting now, but they could be at other shows. At least they gave you something. This week's shows were just like jumbled up bullshit. I think it's almost to the point where we overthink it because it's so ridiculous. There's no logic to it.
Okay, so you're sticking with there's no way he's even thinking in terms of that.
No. No. I think you were onto something earlier when you said he doesn't like the word war. The same guy who let all his girls post in Playboy and had, you know, no holds barred matches with all his guys that came back that hated him, and, you know, can let himself bleed and let Mankind get thrown off a steel cage and let his son jump off of obscurities all the time and risk his life, all of a sudden has a problem with the word war.
All right, well, let me ask you
Raw
this.
is war. Raw is war.
He's a demented old bat. It's not the story. It's actually what is going on, and he still has all the control.
So in your opinion,
that's the problem.
In your opinion, why use the word experience? Why not call them the Viking Kings or the Vikings, or why the word experience?
You want to know my real thought on this whole thing?
Yeah. What do you think?
My real thought on this, I think they did this because they knew it was going to create a stir, and we're going to talk about it. Every person on Twitter is going to talk about it. Every person on Facebook is going to talk about it. They're going to do shows on it. They're going to break it down. They're going to say, well, the Undertaker name sucked, and, you know, he made something of it, and it's created a buzz for 2 days now. We're all still talking about it, and that's all they wanted. And they don't care what it does to these guys or to the story next week, the week after, or 6 months from now, because they got their little Twitter, social media uproar by doing this. And I think that was the motivation. And I think that's the motivation a lot of times. It's that quick, instant reaction where everybody's talking about it with no foresight to what's going on in the future.
But most of the people who are talking about it negatively. So it's not helping the WWE. For instance, you're saying you're done with NXT. You're saying, cross my heart, hope to die, stick a Viking club in my eye. I am done with NXT. Well, that buzz isn't helping them.
They might think I'm the exception to the rule, which I probably am, and they probably think that I'm full of shit and I'll probably watch again anyway, right? Because we all
I don't know if you are the exception to the rule, because it seems like if you read the message boards and whatnot, people were really in an uproar about this.
But if we're right that Vince doesn't care about NXT, that defaults that, and I think they take the tack that Dana White takes with the UFC. No press is bad press. All press is good press. Bad press is good press. If they're talking about me, they're talking about me. If they're talking about us, they're talking about us, whether it's good or bad. I think they all take the same tact with that. I don't know if it's productive or not. I don't know if they're walking down the right path. I might be overthinking it now. I just think that if they felt like we talked about it, do they really have, like, let's be honest. We love Roman Reigns. He's their biggest star right now. We all get it. But him going from Raw to SmackDown, is that really that big a deal right now? Is Twitter going to go, oh, the biggest transaction in the history of the brand split, Roman Reigns moved to SmackDown? Everybody was like, oh, it's Roman Reigns, dude. Like, you're not fooling us. It wasn't even a big deal. I think they were looking for something to, like, make people go crazy. And maybe Vince was like, well, if people go crazy, they care about him, pal. We'll push them. Maybe it'll work out for War Raiders, War Machine, Viking Experience. I don't know. I don't think it will, but I don't even know what's going through his head. It's so ridiculous.
I think we're going to get more experiences. I think if the Brood, let's use Gangrel and Vampiro. If they were in NXT, I think in 2019, Vince isn't going to call them the Vampires. He's going to call them the Vampire Experience. Prepare yourself for more experiences. It's coming.
The Heenan Experience.
So you could use words like encounter and affair. Like, remember the Thomas Crown affair?
Yes.
It could be the Vampire affair.
The Vampire affair. It's going to be great. Pal, we're not Lucha Underground. And this is not the Undead Realm on TNA. I fired Jacobs. This is the Viking Experience.
So, to wind this thing up, in your heart of hearts,
you mean wind it
Edwards,
down? You want to wind it down, right?
No, I was doing the Superstar Smash. What was it? Up,
Smash
down,
sideways.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All over the place. In your heart of hearts, Hollywood Edwards.
Yeah.
Does the Viking Experience name, gimmick, and team get over eventually?
Yes, I think just to stick it to all of us, he will run with it. He will oversaturate us with them just to piss us off. And probably put the belts on them in a month. And then then people are going to cheer them because they're good. And he's going to go, see, pal, I did it. Nobody cares now, do you? They're wearing the tag belts.
And, bro, maybe they already did that on Monday night. Maybe they wore us down, because I don't think I'm lying or exaggerating when I say that between Corey Graves and Renee Young and Michael Cole, they must have said those two words, the Viking Experience. They must have said that 100 times
yes,
in
they
that
did.
match. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like the rule of three. Like when you're listening to the radio, call 1-888-555 now. 1-888-555 now. That's 1-888-555 now. That's what they did last night. Viking Experience, Viking Experience, Viking Experience, Viking Experience. Like, go back and watch it. It's hysterical. So, yeah, I think they're going to try and wind us down, and in the end, he's going to go, see, I won. I won. Suck it, AC. I won. I'm Vince McMahon.
Captain Chaos, what do you think? Does it get over?
I think honestly, listen to you guys, this is what I think they're going to do. The Usos asked for the release, and then maybe resign, maybe they didn't.
Right.
Maybe the Usos end up with the red belts, and they use the Usos to get Igor and Eric, or Ivor and Eric, or whatever the hell they're calling them, over. It wouldn't shock me. He'd be like, okay, listen, Usos, you want your release? Okay, pal. I'm going to give you the experience, pal. This is the ask for your release experience.
It could be.
And, dude,
we
don't
didn't
know what's going through that guy's head.
We didn't see it with the Revival. Like, immediately they put the belts on the Revival because they were bitching and bitching. Turned out he was just embarrassing. He was waiting.
I mean, he brutalized them. So to have the Usos take the belts off of Hawkins and what's his name there, Ryder, and then lose them to the Viking Experience, would it shock me? No. Would it? Actually, I think it probably is like 70% probability to happen.
Anything else on the Viking Experience?
It sucks. I'm done.
It sucks. I'll say this. Join us next time for the podcast experience on YouTube.
AC's miking experience.
The Joe White Experience.
All right, guys. You heard it here first. If you have any comments, put them down there in the comments section. Let us know what you think about the Viking Experience, good, bad, or different. For Hollywood Edwards, for Captain Chaos, this is General Stame saying so long, and we'll see you next time on Soldiers of Shoot.
Soldiers of